Hi guys, good evening, and welcome back once again to The Edward. I am your host Eddie, and in tonight's video I will be doing my episode recap and review of episode 1 of season 2 of The Strain, which has finally returned on FX. And before I proceed, I must give you a warning that this review and episode will be full of massive spoilers. So if you have not watched the season 2 premiere of The Strain yet, or if you're behind on The Strain, a couple of episodes or whatever, I would not recommend listening to or watching this video, as I will be discussing key storyline plot points and massive spoilers. So you have been warned. That being said, wow, that was a great premiere. It was very good, very promising, and quite disgusting. Very disgusting, especially that opening scene. Yuck. You know, what's funny about the opening scene is that I got the book, The Strain, the novel. Not the graphic novel, but the novel that the show is based off of. And the opening scene in the novel is young Abraham Satrakian with his grandmother in their house, and you know, it's like what happens in the opening of the episode. She says to him, "I'll tell you a scary story if you'll finish up your soup. I want you to eat your soup." So Abraham, entranced by her story, is slowly finishing his dinner, and then she tells this story, of which is basically an origin story for the Master Strigoi. And watching the opening scene of this episode, it captured the opening scene of the book almost to a T. They changed a few things around, but it was practically almost to a T. Very similar. And it showed something interesting about the Master in both his origin story and when he's seen talking to Eichhorst after escaping Satrakian and the rest of our characters at the end of season 1, when they thought they had him cornered and exposed him to sunlight. He did burn, and he started to smoke as if he was going to melt or explode, but he escaped in the sunlight into the darkness of the sewers. And what's interesting is that if his body, his physical body, weakens enough, he has to find a new host, just like a virus or a strain. Once the physical body begins to deteriorate and die, he has to find a new body. Because in his origin story, the grandmother, Abraham's Baba, or Bibe, I can't say it, but the Jewish term for grandmother, she tells him that, you know, in the story, the Strigoi was found eating a human victim in the cave, and the human who went into the cave to find him was this tall, big, hulking guy who had a bad limp, and a cane, and his cane, much like the cane that Satrakian has, that he currently uses on the show. And the Strigoi basically, you know, hits him once with his tentacle tongue, and then, you know, he gets a couple worms in him, but then he brings him down to the ground, and he opens his mouth, and and at first I thought to myself, oh, well, you know, he's just gonna, you know, shoot his tongue out again and finish the job. But nope, he vomits just an endless stream of the white worms, like every single white worm in his being. He just vomits them all out, and they just go into this poor guy's mouth. He's like, as the Strigoi is holding him. He's like, it was disgusting. Gross. I remember watching it, and my face was like, it was nasty. Ooh. Great scene, though. Great special effects. And the rest of the episode was pretty damn good. And they certainly didn't skip a beat. Satrakian has now become acquainted with Gus and his new allies, the civilized Strigoi, the ones who are dressed in the Black Ops military attire and gear with guns, and they speak English and act and kind of look like humans, but they're still Strigoi. They're the ones who recruited Gus at the end of season 1 as a chance for revenge against the Master and the rest of the Strigoi. And the leader, whose name we didn't really know back in season 1, but he calls himself Vlad or Vlad. Most likely Vlad, but because of his accent, it sounded like he said Vlad. So that's his name, and he and Gus bring Satrakian to the three ancients, the three leaders of the Strigoi, and Vlad speaks for them. You know, he's their voice. And he offers Satrakian a deal, you know, we'll let you go, we'll let you live, but the second you see the master, because we know you're hunting him as well, the second you see him, you have to let us know so we can arrive and take him out and kill him. And you can help us kill him too. It will mutually benefit us. And Satrakian kind of has to agree, because if he doesn't, I think he knows that he'll most certainly be killed or eaten, like the poor chained naked man that they brought before the ancients, as Vlad said to Gus and Satrakian, we better go now, they're about to wake up and eat. And Gus and Satrakian watch this poor naked prisoner who's just brutalized by the ancients. They all hit him with their tongues and just basically devour him whole, you know, or by piece, you know, they just eat him alive. And Satrakian leans into Gus and says, remember this when you go back up on the streets in the daylight, or something like that. Oh yeah, and then Satrakian and Gus immediately recognize and remember each other when Gus returned a stolen clock that his brother stole from Satrakian's shop back in Season 1, and Satrakian remembered him. So now they know each other, well, they see each other again, and now Gus is working with the civilized Strigoi. That's what I'll be calling them until we get a proper name from them. So now Satrakian knows about his mutual allies, so to speak, who are also hunting the Master and the other Strigoi. But he doesn't tell the rest of the group about it. Oh yeah, and everybody is now holed up in Fett's house, the rat catcher's house, and they have modified it by welding pieces of fence and metal on the inside and the outside of all the windows in the house to keep it Strigoi out, to make it vampire-proof, as they refer to it. And meanwhile, Nora and F are tirelessly working on a way to somehow prevent the spread of infection and stop the strain from spreading to anybody else. But their efforts are proving, you know, futile, because they can't seem to think of anything. And Dutch and Fett work tirelessly to board up and defend Fett's home, and Zach is still there, of course. And, you know, it is a different actor this season, and they said, as what I was reading on it, that the producers felt they needed a younger actor to play the role of Zach instead of the other actor, because he was a bit older, that kid was, and now this current kid, the new actor, because they said there's going to be an emotional depth to his character Zach during this season, and they wanted a younger character to play it off. I don't know, it's something like that. Quite frankly, I couldn't care less that of all the characters on the show, if that's the role they had to recast, fine, I don't really care. I mean, Zach, quite frankly, isn't that interesting of a character. I mean, yeah, he's the main character's son, but you could recast him, and I don't think hardly anybody would care. As long as none of the principals are recast, I'm okay with that. So, basically, New York City is slowly slipping into chaos. Well, not really slow. Yeah, slowly is the right term, because there's smoke everywhere, destruction, fire, and people are still going about their lives, but it's more like in a state of emergency and chaos. And then the mayor holds a press conference at the Stoneheart Group with Mr. Palmer, who has agreed to work with the mayor on establishing a line of credit for the city so they can continue to get money and resources coming through the city, even though it's been kind of taken over by the National Guard, and they're trying their best to find and eradicate infected victims. Nobody has said the word vampire or Strigoi. However, two survivors whom our main characters encounter while searching an old storage unit of Satrakians, they encounter two old people there, and they refer to them as, we've been trying to avoid those creatures, or, you know, the creatures. And that's a great scene. There's lots of great Strigoi killing in there, and unfortunately the couple that they discover, this man and this woman, they both get infected, they're both hit, and they've got the worms in them. And right as Fett is about to put them out of their misery, F stops him, because he realizes this is the perfect opportunity for him and Nora to test their new theory about fighting fire, with fire. Kind of like what Eugene lied about on The Walking Dead back in the season 5 premiere. He talked about how he lied about, oh, and this is spoilers for anybody who's not caught up on Walking Dead. Sorry, should have said that earlier. Anyway, Eugene said that in his department, when he because he was a scientist, and I do that because he's lying the whole time. Anyway, he said that they fought weaponized diseases with weaponized diseases, fire with fire. Nora and F come up with a similar solution about infecting the infected. That's what Nora calls it. So that's what they intend to do. They intend to release this new strain, which will hopefully kill and ultimately eliminate all of the Strigoi. While this is happening, Eichhorst and Palmer have secured a new building, which is clearly going to be their new base of operations. It's got plenty of access to the underground sewer system, lots of tunnels for Strigoi and the Master to slip in and out of. Palmer has purchased it, and it's most likely going to be their new base of operations. And Palmer is maintaining the facade of how he's helping the city during this time of crisis, when in reality he's just making it much, much worse, including having a bus full of blind school children brought over to their new warehouse facility. This School of the Blind, the teacher explains that thanks to a generous offer and a donation from the Stoneheart Group, all of the children at the School for the Blind are being relocated to a safe haven along with their families. But of course, the school bus full of the blind children and their teacher, who is also blind, do not make it to the safe haven as promised, and they end up at the Master's new lair, this new warehouse that Palmer and Eichhorst have purchased. And that's really fucked up, you know, obviously, because the Master gave instructions to Eichhorst saying, bring me the children. And at first I didn't know what that really meant, but I realized, oh no, he's got more food, or at least more more servants, because, you know, he's either going to eat all these kids or he's going to turn them into Strigoi. And based on the end of this episode, when Eichhorst brings Kelly out of her animalistic trance, so to speak, they allow her, like he says to her, we allow you your own voice and your own thoughts again. You know, they obviously are going to use her. My theory is they're most likely going to use her so she will root out and search for Zach, which will ultimately lead the Master and the rest of the Strigoi to F and our main characters, and thus killing our main characters. That's their ultimate plan. Because at first they didn't think much of them, but with Satrakian at the helm, who has all of this information and knowledge and experience on the Master, Eichhorst, and the Strigoi, they realize Satrakian poses a very, very real threat, especially since he mortally wounded the Master at the end of last season. And now it makes you wonder, will the Master get a new body? And if so, who's the unlucky victim? And I think it's interesting how Satrakian didn't tell the rest of the group, oh, by the way, guys, there's another group of vampire hunters out there, and it turns out they're all Strigoi and one human guy, and they're all trying to kill the Master too. I think it's just interesting how he didn't tell them yet, most likely because if he were to tell Gus and Vlad and the rest of the civilized Strigoi that he was with a group of another group of people, they might have used that against him and threatened their lives if he threatened to say anything to anybody about what he sees regarding the Ancients and what they're going, and their beef with the Master. And another thing too is that maybe he doesn't want his friends to become the next victims or the next dinner serving for the Ancients when they awaken and have to eat again, because he doesn't want any of his friends to die, obviously. And, you know, he's still beating himself up for not being able to kill and defeat the Master at the end of last season. He was very devastated by that. But good old Fett, who's really taken a liking to him, is trying to perk him up and convince him that, you know, the fact that they badly wounded the Master is a good sign, and he shouldn't consider that a failure. So overall, I really like where the show is headed so far. This was a great Season 2 premiere, and I'm excited to see how the rest of it unfolds. And I think this season is definitely going to see the continuation of the downfall of New York City. So good job, Del Toro. Good job, Chuck Hogan. And good job, cast and crew of The Strain. I'm looking forward to the rest of Season 2. Well, you guys, thank you so much for watching this episode review. I hope you enjoyed the Season 2 premiere as much as I did. And please hit that subscribe button, like this video, share, and comment. And please post your thoughts, opinions, and comments down below. Let's try to be respectful of one another's opinions. What did you like about this episode? What was your favorite part? Or what was your favorite moment from Season 2? Who's your favorite character and why? I want to hear from you guys. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are as well. And of course, until next time, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.